Sherry, I'm just preparing to go live on YouTube.
Oh, talking? Oh. Because there's a Selwyn Township one. There's two squares. There's a one with a phone.
Good afternoon. This Committee of Adjustment meeting of June the 9th, 2020 will now come to order. There's a notification to members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of the committee. Please be advised the meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available to the public. Call it to order. And is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Seeing none, can it please be recorded in the minutes? We have no deputations, so we will go to the first application, A0820. And Rob, if you would please announce the purpose of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee of Adjustment is holding a public meeting in accordance with Section 45 of the Planning Act as amended in order to consider 4 applications for relief from the Township's zoning bylaw. 2009-021. Prescribed notices of the public meeting were provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within a 60-meter radius of the subject properties. The ministries and agencies were circulated via email. The subject properties were posted with a sign advertising the public hearings, and the notices were also available on the Township's website. The notice as provided that complies with the requirements of the Planning Act. In order to be notified of the decision of the Township of Selwyn on the minor variance application, a written request must be made to the Township. I could just go into the applications, Madam Chair. We have 4 of them before us this evening. The first one is application 08-20. I can advise the committee that we've received input from both Curve Lake First Nation and the Conservation Authority on all 4 applications. And their input is essentially the same on all 4 applications. So I'll go over that in more detail as I go through each of the separate applications. The first one is provided by, or it relates to property owned by Terry Rose. It's 2021 Pratt's Marina Road in Smith Ward, with the agent being Tyler Graham. The applicant is seeking to increase the maximum lot coverage for accessory structures from 5% to 5.9%, and is looking to reduce the setback from the road to a detached garage from 7.5 meters to 4.5 meters. The garage itself is approximately 676 square feet or 62.5 square meters. It represents about 4.9% of the total lot coverage related to accessory buildings, which would on its own be below the 5%. In addition, I note in my report that the garage, the access overhead doors will not face the road. There will be no parking between the road and the front face of the garage, as access will be provided on the side. So we've reviewed the application for compliance with the 4 tests of the Planning Act. In our opinion, in my opinion, it meets the general intent and purpose of the Township zoning bylaw and official plan. The variance is desirable for the appropriate use and development of buildings and structures, and it is minor in nature. Now, in speaking to the input received from other agencies, Curve Lake First Nation has provided their input, and they have requested that the condition be imposed with respect to the requirement of an archaeological assessment. So we reviewed their request in accordance with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sports criteria, and we concur that in this context, an assessment is warranted. So that is one of the conditions that we've noted in the draft decision. In addition, input we received from the Conservation Authority indicates that there is a natural heritage feature in the form of a hydrologic feature, the lake itself. And they have requested that the applicant provide an enhanced buffer between the proposed construction and the shore. They developed with the applicant a vegetation plan and work well with the applicants to achieve what's an appropriate buffer in that context. So that as well has been included in the draft condition. You'll find that in all 4 applications that's something that we've noted. So I have recommended that the committee grant the variance.
Great, thank you very much. To the deputy clerk, do we have anyone to speak to this application?
We have no one here on behalf of this application.
Okay, thank you very much. That is noted. So I will turn to the committee. Are there any questions? Anita?
Actually, it's not a question, it's a comment to what Donna was speaking about earlier. When I was, I used the website for the agenda, and Donna was saying that it was coming up as a mini. And so earlier when I was doing, it was fine. It was coming through the share file really, really slowly. But actually when I opened it now on the website, it just came up with the little preview. So you had to click on the little block and then go download, and then it opens up into the PDF full size.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Donna, have you got a question? You're muted, Donna.
The space bar.
We're here.
You're good, Donna. Go ahead.
Okay. I still haven't found it, but I'll go back to the website and try that, Anita. I did want to ask Rob, because I can't look at it, sorry. Is that the condition for the shoreline management? Is that the one where we put the wording, it is advised? I'm not, sorry, because it is advised that they work with Orca. Did it say, is that the word?
Do you want me to read it? I can read it out.
Yeah, just that one condition.
Yeah, by all means. So it says that the applicant is aware that the proposed development is within a natural heritage system as identified by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and that prior to any development or site alteration taking place, the applicant is required to replace and enhance where possible any vegetation removed within 30 meters of the shoreline, and that the applicant use natural shoreline treatments where applicable to encourage shoreline stabilization, erosion control, and protection. It's recommended that the applicant seek advice from the Conservation Authority related to the development of such a plan.
Okay, so instead of recommended, could we change the word that to it's necessary or mandatory? Because if we say recommended, it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen.
Yeah, so this is the language we've been using. I think, Donna, since we've kind of adopted that, or since the Conservation Authority has been asking us to incorporate some reference to that. So essentially, it's incumbent upon us before we issue a permit for the construction of the garage to ensure that they've satisfied the Conservation Authority with respect to that particular application, and it's worked out well with the language we have.
Okay, if you're satisfied that it's working well, that's fine. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions? And we'll move on to the next application, A1020. Rob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application A1020 is provided to us by Sean Allen. Dan Simovich is the agent acting on behalf of the applicant, and it's related to a property at 1965 Pinehurst Avenue in Smith Ward. In this context, the applicant is seeking relief from several of the regulations in our zoning bylaw. Firstly, he's asking for a reduction in the setback from the front yard from 7.5 meters to 2.8 meters to permit the construction of a covered porch. He's asking for an increase in lot coverage for all buildings from 20% to 22%. He's also asking for a reduction in the setback from high water mark from 30 meters to 24.75 meters, again, as relates to that covered porch. And fourthly, he's asking for a reduction in the setback from high water mark of 30 meters to 15.75 meters to construct a small addition to an attached garage. The scope of the construction proposal it's pretty minor in the scheme of things. There's a small front porch addition, approximately 150 square feet, 13.56 square meters. And the addition to the garage is really very small. It's 61 square feet, about 5.64 square meters. In this case, the existing structure, of course, has kind of limited their options in terms of where these things go. And there's just, again, very little opportunity given the size of the property as well to comply with the setback provisions. I've certainly taken a look at the neighborhood. This structure fits well within the existing layout of the neighborhood. There are a number of buildings that are fairly close to the road, and this would fall within, certainly isn't out of context given the surroundings. So in my report, I've provided a summary of how I believe the intent and general purpose of the township's official plan and zoning bylaw are maintained. Again, in that why I believe it's desirable and appropriate development for the use of land and structures, and that the variance is minor in nature. Again, the Curve Lake First Nation was consistent in their request that these applications be subject to an archaeological assessment. And in this particular context, I didn't conclude that it was warranted. And I note in my report that because it doesn't meet it, or there's a provision in the Ministry of Citizenship and Culture's checklist that where there's been a disturbance in the direct area surrounding the proposed development, if it's extensive enough and recent enough, and recent being after 1960, there's no need to study the issue. And as I noted early in my review, the additions are small. They're essentially adjacent to an existing structure that was built in 1980. And so any possibility of there being anything of architectural or archaeological value has been destroyed. So I've not included that as a condition to the variance, Madam Chair. But I've made the note that the Conservation Authority is requested as it relates to the proximity to a hydrologic feature. But I think in this context, given the scope of what's being proposed, I'll certainly have a chat with my peer at the Conservation Authority, and really isn't warranted that a planting plan be provided given the context. But they've asked for the condition, and I've noted it.
Thank you. I will go to the deputy clerk and ask if anyone has asked to speak to this application.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have the applicant as well as his agent are online. His agent, Dan, is there if he has anything that he would like to say.
Hi there.
Hi, can I have your name, please, in full for the record?
Yeah, my name is Dragan Achimovic. I do go by Dan, just a little bit easier to say. Yeah, I mean, everything that Rob has spoken about is pretty much, everything that I would have said. And we're hoping that you will find this application minor in nature from an addition perspective to the existing home.
Right. And I understand that the owner's also there. Do you have anything to add as a proponent to this application?
No, I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'll bring it to the committee. Is there any question with regards to this application? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next one, which is A1120. Rob?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application A1120 relates to, or is provided to us by Michael Ball. It relates to property at 2009 Selwyn Shores Drive in Smith Ward. The applicant is seeking several variances to our regulations. Firstly, he's asking for a reduction in the setback from the front yard from 7.5 meters to 6.16 meters. And that's to recognize an existing non-conforming garage. Secondly, he's asking for an increase in the maximum lot coverage for accessory buildings from 5% to 7%. Thirdly, he's asking for a reduction in the setback from high water mark requirement from 30 meters to 25 meters to an existing dwelling, and a reduction in the high water mark setback from 30 meters to 21.3 meters to an existing deck. I note in my report, Madam Chair, that these are all required to address existing nonconformities. The current landowner has established that these certain construction took place without the benefit of a building permit. I note that the garage itself, it was built in '99, was built with a permit, but it was inadvertently located too close to the front yard line. So this would address that nonconformity. The requested reduction in setback from the front yard would address that. The second addition, again, was constructed sometime between 2013 and 2018 by aerial photography, as best I can attest or can establish. There's the additions about 14 by 26 to the dwelling and about 10 by 12 to the deck. I've again vetted the application against the policies in our zoning bylaw, which do limit the construction of additions in proximity to high water to no closer than the existing setback from what would have been the existing dwelling when it was amended between 2013 and 2018, and we have established that that particular metric has been met. Yeah, and of course, my report does outline why it is I believe the proposal does meet the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw. Is desirable or appropriate development or use of land, building, or structure, and is minor in nature. Again, as with the other two applications, Madam Chair, we have received input from both Curve Lake First Nation and the Conservation Authority. Again, in this context, there really isn't any construction proposed. So as it relates to any request that archaeological studies be done, again, the damage has been done. There's really no benefit in imposing a requirement that an additional study be done. In addition, of course, in this context, the construction has been taking place, so there's really no need to address any issues related to proximity to the lake. Conditions have not been included.
Thank you. To the Deputy Clerk, do we have anyone speak with regards to this application?
There's no one here in attendance for this application.
Thank you very much. So we will go on to A1220, please, Rob.
Yep. Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Here's the last application before us this evening is A12-20, provided by Donald Scardoni, and his agent is Greg Bruce. And it relates to property at 1380 Island View Drive in Ennismore Ward. The applicant is seeking a reduction in setback from high water mark from 30 meters to 27.8 meters to construct a new dwelling. I note in my report, Madam Chair, that the proposal is to construct a new dwelling, 291 square meters in size, and a detached garage of approximately 123 square meters in area. On the property, the scope of work also includes the demolition of an existing 95 square meter cottage, which is 18.5 meters, 18.24 meters from the high water mark. So the proposal is to locate the new structure quite a distance further from the high water mark than the existing structure. So of course that's the guidance that's provided to applicants in our zoning bylaw, and this applicant followed that rigorously. So it's definitely consistent with the provisions in our zoning bylaws. It relates to how we're to deal with the proximity to high water. Again, in my report, Madam Chair, I do note that why it is I believe that the application is meets the intent of our official plan and zoning bylaw, is appropriate for the development and use of land, building, and structure, and is minor in nature. And again, as with the other three applications, Madam Chair, we received input from Curve Lake First Nation and from the Conservation Authority. I did concur with Curve Lake First Nation that in this context, the construction will warrant a archaeological review, given the checklist provided to us by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. And as well, given the scope of work, it would be appropriate for us to include a condition as relates to the conservation authority's request that there be some thought put into buffers, et cetera, within the 100-foot setback.
Thank you very much. And to the Deputy Clerk, you mentioned that there's an agent present to speak to this application.
That's correct.
All right.
Hello. Hi, Greg Bruce for Donald Scardoni. So everything about this application, it is a small non-conforming lot. And so everything that we've done has been to design this house to fit the lot, to conform to all the bylaws we can. As Rob mentioned, we are pushing the new house. It's going to be a 4-season house. We're pushing it back an additional 12.52 meters from the front of the existing cottage that will be demolished. So that should be looked upon favorably. We have a lot grading plan completed already for it. So overall, this should be a good addition to the town and to the taxpayer base for sure. One of the things that's been challenging, I don't know if you guys are aware, is the Committee of Adjustment, is we have been actually sourcing some quotes regarding, and certainly we understand the requirements for the archaeological survey. I don't know if you guys are aware of some of the costs associated with that are coming back. I don't know if there's any kind of government help for that at all. But this is an elderly family, and we're getting quotes back around $11,000 from a couple of people to perform this survey. So it's a significant cost that we're looking at to do this. So I don't know, Rob, if there is any kind of government assistance for that, or if you have any contacts that maybe we can reach out to try to find a little bit of savings there. Excuse me.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I could certainly put you in touch with some local archaeologists, maybe that could do maybe a better job at quoting something maybe more reasonable. That's a number that I haven't heard. That's quite a bit higher than what I've heard in the past.
So. We've got 2 quotes back at that price. So one was 10.5 and the other one was 11 something. So it's like,
I'll send you some information about other archaeologists or archaeologists that I'm aware of, right, that do that kind of work.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I know no recommendation, but yeah, I'll make that connection and we'll make a choice. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the application, Deputy Clerk?
That is it. There's no one else to speak. Thank you.
All right, I'll bring it to the committee. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to be looking for a mover for the Donna, seconded by Anita. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We have no deferred matters, no correspondence. The minutes of the meeting of March the 27th. Can I have a mover for that? Andy and Anita, all in favor? That's carried. And we are looking for a motion to adjourn, please. Jerry and Donna, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Our council meeting will begin when, Mr. Chair?
Let's give it about 2 minutes so that everybody can just reset themselves for the council meeting. So we will begin at 6:05:30. Okay, colleagues, I'll call the regular council meeting for June the 9th to order. And I'd like to ask us all to start by observing a moment of silence so that council, staff, and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Madam Clerk, please note that none was indicated. So we'll move on to the minutes. And we have before us the minutes of May the 26th, 2020. Council, what is your wish? Donna? To move? And Anita to second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Those minutes are carried. Thank you, colleagues. There are no deputations tonight. Madam Clerk, were there any questions submitted by the prescribed time?
No, there were none.
Thank you. We'll then move into municipal and officers' reports. And the first one is feedback on the County of Peterborough bylaw. And Rob, are you going to speak to that one?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so this is the second report that I've brought to council on this topic. You may recall that in November, I brought a report to council which reviewed the fact that the county was in the process of developing a new sign bylaw, and did seek our input, and council did advance a recommendation to the county, which essentially suggested that they needed to maintain the status quo. What had been proposed, there were several options proposed in the initial draft, and it was felt that the current system works reasonably well, and that our suggestion to the county was that they maintain the status quo. So we have before us now a draft bylaw, essentially that has paid heed to the input that council provided. It is largely a status quo document with some improvements to modernize it and to bring it into closer to standards of today. It does maintain the requirement that signs in settlement areas be approved by the local municipality, which is what we do currently. So I do note in our context, so any signs that would occur in Bridgenorth, Buckhorn, Burley Falls, Lakefield, Ennismore, and Youngs Point would be subject to the laws that we've put in place and have had in place for some time. So the county's bylaw will address signs, what they call country signs. Those are signs within the road allowance. In more rural areas, there are no bush country roads in the township of Selwyn, so those regulations won't apply to us. But any signs adjacent to a county road within 400 meters will require a permit from the county. So, and they will continue to issue those subject to their regulations. One of the changes that modernized their criteria or their regulations was a requirement that any signs taller than 7.5 meters be subject to a building permit, which is a building code requirement. So they've introduced a regulation that they won't issue a permit for a sign of that nature until the applicant provides them with a copy of the building permit. So the only comment that I've made is related to that particular provision, Mr. Chair. And so what I've asked is that they consider adding to their inspection criteria a requirement that as part of their final inspection, that they ask the applicant to provide them with a final inspection report from the township as it relates to the building permit application.
Thank you, Rob. Colleagues, questions for Rob? I see Sherry first and then Anita. Go ahead, Sherry.
Thank you, through you. At the county, we haven't talked yet about enforcement, cost of enforcement. We are going to be getting some kind of a report down the road, but do you think it would be worthwhile that we reiterate that any costs for enforcement of the bylaw should be borne by the county, Rob?
I do note in my report that indeed the report that the author brought to County Council did indicate that there's a further report coming to County Council that will deal with bylaw enforcement as relates to sign bylaws and perhaps more broadly. And I did note in the report that it will be important that they get that aspect of the process right if this is to be successful. It certainly wouldn't hurt to reiterate the fact that from our perspective, it would be appropriate for them to absorb any costs associated with enforcing the bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is with regards to the sign structures exceeding 7.5 meters in height, which I think is about 25 feet. Can you give me any examples of sign structures that we have in the township that would fall under those particular guidelines as an example? Just because I can picture a few possible sign structures like at the laundromat in Lakefield. But is that the type of sign structure that they're talking about here?
I think, yeah. So I think in our context, so a lot of the pylon signs, say at gas stations and Tim Hortons would qualify, right? And so we just asked them to provide engineering on the base. It's really about ensuring that the base is robust enough to support the loads, right? And in the county context, there may be some of those as well. Pylon, like a typical pylon sign, or a gas station in a rural area, or maybe a billboard sign, right? Might also qualify. Might be taller than 7.5 meters as well. So that in that context, they would ask that the applicant get a permit from the lower tier municipality.
Jerry?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the Rob permit fee.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
What's the fee for the building permit? I just went through document here on the tariffs and I couldn't find it.
So the county bylaw does have its own fee structure, and our building permits would be based on the value of construction, right? So it's $14.54 per thousand of estimated construction value for a building permit.
Okay. Anybody else? If somebody wish to move that recommendation, Anita will move it and Sherry will second it. All those in favor? That item is carried. Okay, colleagues, we are now going to move on to the second report, which is the Economic Recovery Strategy follow-up. Just before we begin the report, I'm going to try to do this in a particular way because I know there's a lot of interest from various councillors on this. So I'm just going to do this in a sectional approach, if you don't mind. So first, we're going to deal with the issue of the multimedia campaign. So we'll have that discussion, and when that discussion is over, I'll ask for a motion from council to try to deal with that. Then when we get into the financial relief program, I'm going to break the conversation down into the three components that are discussed. One is a general component, then there's a criteria for eligibility component, and other components. So we'll have three separate discussions and look for a motion at the end of each one of those discussions. And hopefully we can address everything in an expeditious and efficient manner. But I do know that colleagues are very interested in this and we'll have some things to say. Before we start, I'll ask Janice, I guess, if she has any specific general comments she wants to make. And I should note that I believe I see Gail Morehouse name is there. So Gail is runs the Community Futures. So she's here this evening, if I understand, as a resource if we have any questions of Community Futures. So Janice, did you want to add some general comments or start with some general comments?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, it's Angie and I wrote the report. I'm happy to take any questions that you have. And as you've noted, Gail is on the call and happy to take questions as well.
Thank you very much, Angie, and thank you for all the work in writing the report. So, colleagues, we'll turn first to the multimedia campaign, and who would like to speak to that? Anita, go ahead.
I think generally I like the summary of the proposed program, the way it lines out with the themes of our small towns equals, and it goes through that. I do have a question with regards to the radio and television. My question is, I know you've put information and dollars attached to it, but what's the price or the cost of one, say, radio ad or one television ad in terms of dollars and cents? I'm interested in knowing if that math has been done.
Over to you, Angie.
So Anita, I can't give you a question about the individual radio ads because the pricing was provided by Adrian of Structure Harrop, and we have pricing in there for 4 different radio stations. So the rates would be different across the different radio stations. The TV advertising, there are 85 ads per month. There's 30-second ads. So at $87.50 divided by 85, that would tell you what the individual TV rate is. If you just give me a second, I'll figure that out. But to your point, this is all scalable, so you could reduce the number of ads or eliminate components of the program altogether to reduce costs or add to the costs if you wish to. So the individual TV ad looks like it's about $130 an ad.
Anita, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, so can, I don't know, have Structure Harrop given you an example of what a 30-second ad might look like on TV?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. We would have to produce the ad, and it really depends on what we want. It could be very simple with a graphic in the back and then somebody speaking, or you could do something with various images that's a little bit more interactive. So the price range to produce the ad it ranges depending on, you know, the complexity of what you want the advertisement to look like. It can be anywhere from $300 to $500 just to prepare the one ad.
Anita?
I'm good now. Thank you.
Donna, did you have a comment?
Yes. Is there any opportunity to reduce the number of times a week that it's showing on the television? It says 7 days a week. Would there be a savings if we reduce the number of days, like 5 days a week, Monday to Friday?
Angie?
An answer to that?
Are you there, Angie?
Oh, pardon me. Sorry about that. You would simply reduce the number of ads per week, Donna. So instead of doing 85, you could do 60 or whatever that number is.
So that would be advantageous to reduce the cost.
Yes, so all these costs could be reduced by reducing the frequency of the advertising. So if you didn't want to do 85 ads per month, you could do 10 ads per month. If you didn't want to do 360 ads per month of radio, you could do 100 ads of radio. It's all scalable.
I would like to suggest that we do scale the radio and the television ads because I think it's very costly. That's just my opinion.
Okay, we'll go
So
to
the
Jerry.
one-
first, and then
The
to
one
Sher-
caveat to that is, I think part of the rationale for the number of ads, in order for it to be effective, you do need a fair number of them. So people need to be able to see it over and over again. It's sort of like that jingle that you hear and you recognize. The reason that you recognize it and understand what the brand is and what the ad is for is that you've heard it several times. That's the purpose behind the number and frequency.
Okay, that drives me crazy. And I don't want Jerry to sing for us.
We'll probably find unanimous consent for that. Jerry?
Me. Getting ready to sing here for you, Shantae. Okay, so I've got a couple questions along the way. As far as the 5-month multimedia campaign, are we having franchises included in there, such as, say, M&E or Tim Hortons, or are we going to concentrate on our local true businesses that are upstarts from Selwyn?
So we would propose a theme. So for instance, we might talk about local restaurants. So then we would rotate through advertising that features different local restaurants. So that could be franchises, or it could be the local mom and pop. But we are not going to pick one business and just promote that business. The idea would be to promote a specific sector.
And I get that and understand that. I just want to make sure that mom and pops maybe take a little bit more precedence over some of the franchises. Not that they do anything wrong, but they're certainly in a different boat than a small 2 or 3 man operation. With Facebook, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay. With regards to the Facebook ads, I got a bit of I don't know where the production cost and the ad pricing is coming here. What right now is our budgeted cost for production on the Facebook ad?
I'll just have to find that number. That's certainly not the majority. The majority of that cost is the advertising.
So hands up go ahead.
Sorry. It was about $475 for the full 5 months.
To produce it?
Correct.
The production cost, or for the ads?
To prepare the ads.
Was $475, and then we're going to spend $59 on ads.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess hands up, who's on Facebook? Anybody? Nobody? For about $26, you can reach 3,000 or 4,000 people when you boost an ad on Facebook or promote it. We currently have about 3,000 people following the Selwyn Township page. For $5,900, that's an awful big number. We could reach China. So I don't know where we're at with that at $5,900 to boost posts.
Angie?
Well, that's boosting posts like on Facebook generally. So you're reaching a huge audience that way.
I hear you, but you can reach 10,000 people if you wanted for $52 or $20. It's so cheap, it's ridiculous. So I don't know. I'd like to reconfigure that amount because I don't know where we come up with $5,900 to boost it. That's an awful money, and it's not that expensive. I've boosted ads, so I've got a rough idea what it costs. $11 for a week or $6 even gives you a week of advertising, and you can reach for $6 you get maybe 15 or 2,000 people.
Angie, do you have the details of what her rotation is planned for on the
Yes, I do. So it would be 5 ads with a rotating image. So you could rotate, say, 15 different types of businesses through the image and per month. And it would rotate through.
And what's the reach?
You can make the reach anything you want. So say you wanted to target locally for restaurants, or if you wanted to do some reach into the Durham or the GTA, you can set it up so that it targets to that area.
Yeah, thanks. I get that, but what I'm trying to do is figure out what reach has she suggested. She needs to have a planned reach in order to come up with that cost estimate. Because if I understand Facebook correctly, the cost is based on your reach. So if I want to reach 20,000 people in a geographic area of, I don't know, 150 kilometers, there's a certain cost to that. If I want to stretch that out by 500 kilometers, that increases my cost. So I'm just wondering if you did this.
Sorry, I don't have that level of detail. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. I think we lost Jerry temporarily, but I know Sherry, you wanted to make some comments.
Thank you, through you. I've done advertising before on the radio and on television, and generally they give you the time slots that you're going to be advertising. With this pricing, has that been given? Because I think it's important with checks that we get on the evening news if we can. And I don't want to pay for ads that are going to be on at from midnight till 6 in the morning. Well, maybe 6 in the morning is okay, but from midnight till 5 in the morning. So do we know what the time slots would be for this pricing?
They're generally, they're just kind of all over the place. So there's some that are during the news time, some in the afternoon, morning. Like they've tried to kind of come up with a way to provide the advertising over the course of the day and in the evening.
This is for both radio and TV?
This is for both radio and TV, yeah.
So we can't stipulate that our ad would be on during the news at 6 and 11.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, we would, but you would pay a premium for drive times. So in order to get like a pretty economical rate, the rate is kind of averaged out so that they have the ad over the course of the day and in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
Donna?
Yes, through you to, I want to get back to the Facebook and social media. I'm wondering, Jerry, if you wanted to defer that part until you got more details.
Yeah, and my apologies there. I lost my internet connection somehow. So, yeah, I just think that's an awful lot of money, and I don't understand where the numbers were coming from, to be perfectly honest with you. So maybe a breakdown on it. And I'm not being smart here. It's literally $6. Like, it is the cheapest form of advertising you'll ever do. So that might be a good call until we get the breakdown. However, I think we need it quickly because I think we got to get going on this thing. So that's sort of the quagmire I'm in. But
I understand that, Councillor Heron. I would have been happy to try to get a few more of those details for the meeting this evening.
What if you had an owner? I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a suggestion to try to deal with that when we're finished the conversation. So, Donna has intervened, Jerry has, Anita has. Does anybody have anything else they want to add? Jerry?
If I could, because my internet got lost here and I kind of got cut off. As far as the checks goes, and I think Sherry mentioned it and then Donna followed up with the question. Who had checks on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday? It was a nice weekend. We were all outside. You were doing things. It wasn't on. Personally, If I'm trying to get best bang for my buck, I'm going to pay that premium for the morning show, lunchtime, and the 6 o'clock news. If you let it run for, let's say it's only 3 weeks, we let it run, or a month, I think we hit those key windows, and I think that works. No different than the drive time for the radio. So that's my thoughts. Council's decision.
Okay. Anita?
I like Jerry's idea that, 4 or 5 weeks, give it a try at peak times. I think that would be a good idea. I watch the 6 o'clock news every night. I don't generally watch text during the day, but I do at the news, and then from about 8 o'clock onwards, also depending on what the show is. So I think targeted time is a good idea, and instead of looking at the full 4 or 5 months, start with 1 month, 1 weeks, and see how it goes.
Thank you, Anita. Donna?
I agree with that point as well, that the 6 o'clock news is widely viewed, and potentially the early morning one, especially Monday to Friday. Not even too sure they have the news on checks on the weekends. So Monday to Friday would be the target, and prime times, like, instead of just having it interspersed all through the day, because I really think it would be missed by a lot of people.
Okay. Angie, did you want to add something? Your thoughts just lit up.
No, I'm just looking for council to tell me what you want.
Okay. No, I just didn't know whether you had a comment. So let me just, colleagues, because we'll try to bring this, I think everybody's made their comments. So let's try to bring this to a conclusion based on what people said. So if I understood the will of council in terms of the social media, people don't want to rip that out, but they want to leave that in. But what they would like to see come back is an information piece that simply breaks down the cost, because council, all of us have, not all of us, but most of us have probably done Facebook posts or a boost at one time or another. It appears on the surface to be out of whack, but let's just get some additional information. We don't want to yank it out. We like using Facebook, but I think council would like to get a little bit more information back on that piece, just so that we can understand. And then there may be a rationale behind it that we're just not seeing. So that would be great. So that's number one. Number two, if I hear correctly, and I need council to direct me. So I think there's a consensus to not advise on Saturday and Sunday on the TV. The question I have for council is, the money that we save on that, do you want to use that to get our purchases from Monday to Friday to get us to the prime spots? Because they will, right? The way they do it, if they give you 10 spots today, 4 of them are really good and 6 of them aren't as good. But as I think Jerry said there, if you want to use some extra money, you can get it so they're all in the good spots. So one of the options is to take what we save from Saturday and Sunday and use it to get prime spots, better prime spots on Monday to Friday. Is that what council is looking to do?
Yeah.
Donna?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Because I'm not trying to put words in everybody's mouth. Is that where everybody wants to go with that? Anita, Jerry, okay. So Donna, you want to move then that we accept the multimedia campaign with 2 exceptions. One, we do not advertise in TV on Saturday and Sunday and use the savings to get prime spots Monday to Friday. And 2, we want to see some additional information, the cost breakdown on the Facebook posts, boosting, right?
Yes, I would move that.
Okay, does somebody want to second that? Anita wants to second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, so that part is carried. Thank you, colleagues. That was a good discussion. And we'll go to the financial relief program. We'll do this in the 3 sections because I suspect there's interest in all 3 sections. So we're going to go to the general section first. And I think the deputy mayor is asking to be recognized. Sherry?
Thank you. I don't have any problem with any of it except for the time period for eligible expenses. I would like to move to change the time period for relief for the eligible expenses to the date the state of emergency was declared by the province, which was March the 17th. That's the date that I feel the grant or the program should start, because people started having to pay for PPE related things right after the state of emergency was declared. I don't know if there's a seconder for that.
We have a motion that in bullet 4 under general, the date April 28th be replaced with the date March 17th. That's being moved by Sherry. Anita, are you wanting to second that? Anita has seconded that. Any further discussion on that piece? Not seeing any colleagues, we'll call a vote on that particular amendment. All those in favor? Okay, that is carried. We're now going to go to the second criteria for eligibility. I'm going to want to speak to that directly. So I'm going to, oops, Jerry, did you want to?
Yes, please. Sorry, I thought we were just going to change that one thing. As far as in the general section goes, the one with as far as outreach, economic development coordinator to contact businesses that have been closed, limited to inform. I think that needs to be done in person. As I've gone around talking to businesses there, I asked whether, you know, have you met Carrie Partridge? Has she been around? And I'm getting a lot of, well, she sent some emails and a couple of people with the who's that. So I think it's important that, especially now, that she getting out there and meeting and talking to the people to let them know what is available for them, such as the, you know, this few community future stuff and what else we've done for them to try and help them out. As far as, you know, there's some great promotion there on what we've done. We're doing the Facebook stuff. We're doing TV for you. We're trying to, you know, we're doing the multimedia. Here's what we're doing. And then maybe a little bit of a, you know, it's a meet and greet basically. So again, I'm not hearing a whole lot of people who know her. So I guess that's my concern at this point. So I think the outreach is important.
So what you're, I don't know if we need a motion, but I think unless there's councillors that disagree with Councillor Herron, that we would like to see the EDO when it's possible to do it, to actually carry the message in person where feasible. So I think we can take that as a wish of council.
Could I just add one comment to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear that we were all advised to stay at home and many businesses were closed. So I think it's just important to note that Carrie was contacting people by phone and by email for that reason.
Right, and I understand that, and that's where when I worded that, I said impossible. Right, because we have to make sure that we are.
No, I was speaking to the previous comment. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Anita.
So now that the province has more or less opened up our region a little bit more, are those same original guidelines still in place, or would this, the new opening phase 2, whatever it's called, allow a little more leniency as far as Carrie getting out there to actually talk to people in person?
Sorry, Anita, you were speaking about Legions in particular or businesses?
No, I'm talking about businesses. I'm talking about,
yeah. Yeah, so now that more businesses are able to open, for sure that would give her the opportunity to personally drop in, where she didn't have that before.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go for criteria for eligibility. As I mentioned, I'm going to step out of the chair. I'm going to hand it to the deputy mayor for this section. because I'm going to want to speak to it directly. So Sherry, you're in the chair.
Right, thank you. So for the criteria for eligibility, who would like to speak to that? Donna?
Yes, thank you. I had some concerns with the criteria because I felt that it was too onerous and time consuming for our businesses, and our general intent was to make things easier for them and to get some money into their hands as quickly as possible, especially the ones who've been totally closed and are trying to reopen quickly now. So that is the reason why I have written up an amendment to that particular section. And I think I sent it around to everybody. Is there anybody who did not receive that amendment? Okay, so I'm not too sure then I have to read the whole thing.
I think it would be good for you to read it, Donna.
Okay. Whereas in the spring of 2020, Council expressed a desire to create an economic recovery strategy. And whereas one part of this strategy was to provide businesses with a grant of up to $2,500 in order to modify their business settings in order to be COVID compliant as soon as possible, once they were given the green light to reopen from the provincial government. And whereas the township staff and Community Futures worked diligently in order to create a protocol and application form for our businesses to complete in order to receive reimbursement for the expenses incurred in order to reopen their businesses in a timely manner. Therefore, let it be resolved that in order to expedite and simplify the application process, the criteria for eligibility, which is reflected in the staff report of June the 9th, 2020, be replaced with the statement of attestation as understated. I hereby attest, represent, and warrant that my business is physically located within the township of Selwyn, yes or no? The business was established prior to January 1, 2020, yes or no? My business was solvent, viable, and not declared bankrupt prior to the COVID-19 crisis, yes or no? My business is not a franchise or a subsidiary of a larger corporation where financial support can be provided by the parent company or trust fund, yes or no? My business is currently and expects to continue to be negatively financially impacted as a direct result of COVID-19, yes or no? And the last point, all information provided in this application is true and as accurate as possible based on currently available information, yes or no? And I believe, as does the seconder, that the statement of attestation covers the all the items, and the criteria for eligibility only makes it a simpler process and faster one.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mayor Mitchell, your seconder, unmute.
I'll second that after I unmute. Thank you. Colleagues, yes, I concur with this motion. I just have a couple of comments. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to do three things all at once, and I think this is a way to do it. Number one, we have a very a specific set of criteria that we want for a business to qualify. So the attestation requires the business to basically inform us that they meet those conditions, and they have to attest that they're accurate in doing that. The second thing we want to do is to make sure that our money flows for the purposes that we intended. And so in the next section, you'll see that payment is against receipts. So we've listed a set of criteria. The individual has to submit their receipt so we can make sure that the money is actually being spent on that which we want. And the third area, just to basically repeat for Donna, we're trying to keep this as straightforward as we can and still at the same time prudently manage our finances. And I think this does this. We want our businesses to be out there as they reopen, trying to recover economically, trying to attract their customers, trying to do the business that they do. And the least amount of paperwork that we can provide them, I think the better off we're going to be. So I agree with Donna. I think this is a good way to approach it. I think it accomplishes everything that we want to accomplish. And we make sure that the money goes to the businesses that we believe as a council and based on our resolution from 4 weeks ago that we want the money to go to, and 2, through the receipt section that we make sure that it's spent on the things that we had intended it for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or comments from members of council on this motion? Anita?
I just want to add that I like the wording, the attestation. It's very clear, direct, simple to understand. So I think anybody reading it should be able to understand it and answer the yes or no clearly.
Thank you very much. Jerry?
Thank you. I think it's good that you got rid of the tax returns out of it, and as well as the 30%. You know, in private business, that's your business. You know, whether you're down 30% and to have to show people your numbers, I think people might walk away from that. An example, we've got a local business that's down $500,000 in March. Is that 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? Didn't ask the question, I was told. So the numbers are large out there. So any little bit kind of helps them out. So I'm certainly in agreement with this change.
Okay, Donna?
When it comes time for a vote, I'd like to request a recorded vote.
All right, thank you. I just want to make a comment. I think they always say the devil's in the details, and this is one time where it's no exception. I don't think it's the time to make it more difficult for business owners. I don't think this was ever council's intent. Every business has been affected by the pandemic, and they had to make themselves COVID ready. So the attestation will ease the ability to apply for the grant, and I support it as well. We've been asked for a recorded vote, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Councillor Locke,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes.
thank you. Deputy Mayor Senna,
Yes.
Councillor Ballantyne,
Yes.
Councillor Heron.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, and I'll turn the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. So colleagues, we'll go on to the third section of the second part, which is the other criteria, where we've got the various amounts. The maximum amount, 2,500. We are appreciative of Community Futures and their partnership with us. Reimbursement against receipts, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if anybody will make a motion for those, but does anybody want to speak to any of those particular points? If everybody's comfortable with those, I'll look for a motion on that section of the report. I see Anita, seconded by Jerry. Any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? So that's carried. So colleagues, that deals with that report. So we've accepted the marketing plan. As per our request, it now has television in it, and it has expanded the scope. Our motion asks that we focus on the TV part from Monday to Friday and use the money that we won't spend on Saturday to Sunday to get prime time on that. And we've asked for a detail on the Facebook boosting. We then dealt with the financial part where we've got an amendment on the date. and the criteria for eligibility will now take the form of a statement of attestation. Thank you, colleagues, for all of the input on that. And we will proceed to the next item on the agenda as soon as I sort my way through all of the paper on my desk and can actually find the agenda, which I've just done. So, okay, colleagues, we are now going on to item report number C, which is the some additional roofing upgrades on the Lake Smith Community Center. I don't know who's going to speak to that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's Lane speaking.
Okay.
I can speak to the next few reports before council this evening. They all relate to capital maintenance and improvement projects, which we prefer to go forward this year, but they are not yet in the approved budget. The reports were prepared by Scott Warren, who's of course our facilities maintenance coordinator. And the first report is on the Lakeville Smith Community Center roofing updates. The reports before council because of some damage that occurred last winter with respect to ice and snow buildup sliding off the roof. There's some solutions in the report, some additional modifications that we wish to make with respect to snow guards, and then some gutter hangers, additional gutter hangers, and then of course the actual repair to some of the eaves troughs as well. So if council has any questions, I'll endeavor to answer them.
Comments? I see Jerry first and then Donna.
Thank you. Through you to Lane. Is this the company that did the roof, Belcon?
That's correct. They did both of the roofs at our arena.
All right. So when they quoted that and did it, why didn't they put it down the other side? I've seen a lot of steel roofs, and if they've got eaves troughs, they always have the ice guard on there. If they don't have eaves troughs, which is a bit of a fad right now, they just let it be and it piles down the side. So if they put it on to protect the pedestrian side, which I get, and that's important, but the fact that the eaves troughs got ripped off, which normally happens with a steel roof if you don't have the guards, I don't know why they didn't put it on, or was that an extra on and council declined it, or what happened?
Yeah, that along the south side was definitely an expense that we tried to save at the time. It was never presented to council as an option, so it definitely wasn't council's direction to do that, but we didn't include that in the initial install. We did include it on the northwest side because of pedestrians, cars, things like that, and given the damage that we've seen there, we want to also add some additional snow guards and additional strapping for the gutters along there.
Okay, so basically going forward, we've learned, some history, if you will, I guess, a lesson, just to make sure, because again, they're always around. So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, with respect to that particular roof, the roof before wasn't a steel roof, and so I think we learned a little bit definitely on that project for sure.
Donna?
Yes, through you to Lane. Did you say we have a steel roof? I should know this, but a steel roof at the Ennismore Community Center?
Yes, we do. We had a steel roof there previously, and then we did a new roof over roof construction before we put the solar panels on it.
And do we have the snow guards on that roof?
We have a little bit, yes, we do. We have a little bit different situation there because of the solar panels.
Okay, so there's no concern that we could have snow and ice damage to any part of that building? We shouldn't consider adding any more snow guards? That would be fine?
Yeah, we've went through a number of winters on that, and we haven't experienced any issues over there at that roof.
Okay, thank you.
Anita, Sherry, any comments? No? Somebody want to move the motion? Anita's moved it. Somebody want to second it? Sherry will second it. All those in favor? Motion carried. We'll go on to the next one, which is the building project at the Scout building. I guess there's some changes since the last time this was discussed with council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, definitely the Scout building is included in the approved budget for 2020. The report that's before council this evening, though, is a change in scope. So what is included in the 2020 budget was a basic renovation to refresh the building and improve the accessibility of the washrooms on that location. In reviewing the plans for the facility and indeed for some of the other facilities that the township owns, staff is recommending that we would change the scope to also meet the needs of the local police detachment in Lakefield. Building renovations would then include changes so that the police service could move to that location as well. The ripple effect for that would be that the police space would then open up. The Chamber of Commerce would have some additional space. We would definitely be able to move forward with their barrier-free access to the second floor of that building, and then hopefully creation of a business incubator space on the second floor. So there are a number of projects coming together, and by increasing the scope at the Scout building, we would be able to move the police down there and basically have a ripple effect of 2 or 3 different projects.
Thank you, Lane. Comments? I see Donna, and then I see Anita. Donna?
Yes, through you to Lane. Now, prior to this, we were going to have a small kitchen, the accessible washrooms, the garage or the far side of it was going to be storage for rack. Are we still going to have those items in that building?
Yes, it's proposed that all of those would still stay. Definitely the storage wouldn't be affected at the end. I think the main change is that the meeting space for recreation would be smaller. We already have meeting space, of course, adjacent to it at the Hills Pin Room upstairs and at Marshland Center across the way. So this would provide a little bit different type of meeting space, a little bit smaller, maybe for executives and things like that, smaller groups that would meet. And then perhaps more importantly, it would support any of the activities going on in the park when, of course, when public events can resume again. So some of the festivals and things like that.
I just have a follow-up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I agree that we don't necessarily need more meeting space in the municipality. We do have plenty of that. But I'm just wondering if we're just adding a couple of more offices and everything else is staying the same, why we need an architect to do that.
Yeah, with respect to this type of building that we're doing and what our plans are with respect to accessibility, with respect to the police service itself, those requirements are there in terms of the needs for an architect as opposed to just us making the changes. We need to have a good set of plans in place for those renovations.
So in other words, for the police service to put money into it, they want an archaeological plan.
No, there's no suggestion that the police is requiring this at all. The requirement is to ensure that we have a good solid set of plans and that any of the plumbing changes that need to be made there. And of course, keep in mind that this is a public assembly building as well. So we need to make sure that we do things appropriately.
Just to clarify, it's not an archaeological.
Oh, did I say that?
An architect.
Architect, yes. Sorry, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, okay, good. We had Anita and then Jerry.
I like the idea that the Scout building is going to be refreshed and whatnot. I do have some concerns. I don't know if it'd be concerns so much. Right now, the police department is, the police office is right downtown, easy for people to access. And I know that parking is a challenge, but on the other hand, I think people like to have that sort of visible presence of a police office right downtown. So that does cause me some concern. I know we want to do work on the second floor of that building, and I'm thinking probably where the police office is right now is maybe where the elevator would go in. But I do wonder if it's such a good idea to move the police office from downtown out to Isabel Morris Park. I see pros and cons in the notion, but I'm just kind of on the fence about it.
Okay, I can provide some comments to council on that. We definitely have had discussions several times with the police service. Of course, the location that we're talking about actually is very high traffic in terms of the amount of folks there, right? So in the winter season with respect to the arena, the summer season typically would have activity there as well with lacrosse and the different rentals, the marina as well. And of course, just adjacent to our property are a series of fast food outlets that has a lot of high traffic as well. So we have talked about it with the police. It is a high traffic area, and also with the skateboard park and the park itself, the potential there that their exposure is going to actually be great. With respect to the size of the village, and we have an officer there to be able to circulate around, I think that you're going to see the cruiser basically moving around the town as well, right? So I think that given the high traffic area, that the exposure for the police will actually could be enhanced at different points of the day.
Jerry?
Thank you. Through you, Delane. So 2 questions. One, is the existing footprint that's there going to remain, or are we going to build it a little bit bigger? And 2, does the Lakefield, that's it. That's the only question I've got, sir.
Well, yeah, that is one of the reasons why we're engaging an architect, or we're proposing to. The hope is that there won't be any increase in the footprint of the building, and that the side entrance for the police will be able to come into an interior lobby area that will be secure for the staff that would be on site.
Sherry?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I agree with Lane. I think moving them over to that location will enhance the fact that they are out and about. The police car will be parked in a public place, and may change the way people act in the park.
Thank you, Sherry. Lane, just a couple questions before I look for a motion. What's the total square footage of the building, and what will the square footage of the police component be?
I couldn't actually provide you with the total square footage, but I think based on our original plans or what we're looking at, and the area that we're looking at for the police would probably be a third or a little greater than a third of the building, not counting the garage area.
Not counting, okay. And did I remembered correct? Do I remember correctly that we received RED funding for part of the original plan for the work that we were going to do? And the question is, does anything that is changing now put any of that at jeopardy?
No, we did include RED funding, and we also received the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund for our portion as well. So actually none of this would be funded directly through taxation. It would be through either a reserve, provincial RED funding, or the provincial unconditional grant.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask colleagues if there's anybody willing to move the recommendation. Sherry, and then Donna will second. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That is carried. And we will now go on to the next one, which is the municipal office HVAC assessment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've looked at some of the challenges in this the building over the years, and we have a series of different zones for heating. And it seems that if you walk from one end of the building to the other, you go through about 3 or 4 different zones as you're walking down. Definitely it is challenging with respect to the different HVAC types that we have. And so what's being proposed is that we would actually do a study that would include a review of the building envelope. So basically looking at the windows, looking at anything with respect to drafts or heat loss, looking at the actual zones of the building with respect to HVAC, and also then looking at energy efficiency of the building. And I've just included one additional comment with respect to fresh air and the fresh air exchange. We do have a system in place right now. I do know that in wintertime in particular, when we do a fresh air exchange in the afternoon, we do have some negative impacts on temperature within the building. And so that's another thing that we're hoping that would increase, so that we could increase our fresh air exchange, but not directly impact on the temperature while we're doing that.
Thank you, Lane. Comments? Anybody have comments on that? No? Jerry?
Thank you. Through you to Lane. So you want to get the consultant and then the energy specialist. Is there a reason why we need those guys versus a heating guy, such as say DART or whoever it is we use, to give the same opinion or a different opinion, I guess, sorry? Or, you know, just an opinion? Is that what we're looking for? I'm trying to figure out why we need the consultants, I guess, when I guess I'm just curious if a heating guy would do it.
Yeah, no, I can understand your comments here, Councillor Heron, for sure. I think we have to recognize that when, at the end of the day, whatever comes out of this, we're going to need to look at putting together some type of a specification for what we're going to do. So we would look at using an architect that's familiar with the building, and then being able to put together some plans for improvement down the road. So, you know, in terms of just selecting one contractor versus another to get an opinion, we didn't feel that was the way to go here. And also that energy efficiency is another key factor in what we're looking at.
Donna? You're still muted.
There I am. Sorry about that. I'm using two different mice here. I don't understand, through you to Lane, what the building envelope study would tell us. I don't really understand what is meant by that. And you have selected somebody to do that, and you stated that you didn't want to select a heating contractor or heating air conditioning contractor just to give you the specs or the information. So I'm just a little confused there.
Sure. So I'm definitely not a building expert, but in terms of the building envelope, what we're looking at there is to ensure that, first of all, can we make improvements on the windows? I know that we spent quite a bit of time when the new section of the building was selected, but could there be improvements on the windows? They would do an infrared study of all the windows to see if there's actually sufficient insulation and properly installed around all the windows. Sometimes above the windows there are challenges, and we could have heat loss there, and then also heat loss from the roof itself. And so maybe there could be some additional insulation that should be required. So keep in mind that this has been a building that's been modified a couple of times over the years, and we just want to ensure that we've got the right overlap and things like that where we need heat. Where we need insulation to prevent heat loss. With respect to the energy company that we're talking about, this is a specialist that looks at HVAC. So they may be involved in the industry, but their sole role in this is working for the architect and providing sub-trade information to them so that we can put together specifications for improvements.
Sorry, I confused that. It was the Barry Bryan Associates were doing the building envelope, not the other company. So why did you decide not to do an RFP for these two different proposals?
Yeah, so Barry Bryan Associates is an architect firm that's been involved in several different buildings that we've used. And given the dollar value of what we're looking at, we didn't feel that it was good value for dollar to go out and do that. So Barry Bryan's been associated directly with this building a couple of times. And Durham Energy Specialist was a sub-trade that they recommended that could provide the work, and they've worked with them before.
Okay, thank you. I'm satisfied with that.
Jerry.
Thank you. Just don't forget the council chambers if we ever get to use them again. Sometimes we were freezing down there and other times we were really sweating. So hopefully that gets fixed in the process.
Yeah, it's my understanding the review is to be a holistic review of the entire building. So we'll take a look at every one of our heat sources and cooling units that we have in the building.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments, or is somebody willing to move the report? Looking for a mover. I have Anita moving. Do I have a seconder? Donna seconding it. Further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And then the final staff report is the repair to the desiccant unit at the Ennismore Arena. Is Mike speaking to that, or are you, Lane?
I think Mike's on the line here. If he's able to connect with council, I think he's prepared to speak to the report.
Okay, Mike.
Yes, through you, Mayor Mitchell. The report really, it speaks for itself, and I'm prepared to answer any questions there might be. It is an unforeseen repair, and we were able to get the price down considerably from its original quote, in large part with discussions with their head office regarding how, you know, this should never happen. I've never seen it happen before. They had never seen it happen before. So we're sharing in the cost. It certainly is way past, given that it's 8 years old, 8.5 years old, well past the warranty period, but they are a very high efficiency, very high tech piece of equipment that we have sole sourced, and I think appealing to that side of them as well helped with getting the price down to about just around 50% of what we originally were quoted.
Any questions, colleagues? Not seeing anybody. Would somebody like to move the report to accept? Donna wants to move it, and Jerry will second it. No further discussion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, colleagues. We're now on to the consent agenda. Are there items that people would like to have pulled? Sherry, what would you like pulled?
5A, please.
5A. Okay, I was going to ask for that as well. Let's see, Anita next. What would you like?
614.
614 for Anita. Donna, did you want something pulled?
Under correspondence 6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, and 6, 8. And Jerry, did you have any? No? No, Jerry didn't have any. And I have 5A and 6, 5. So, okay, colleagues, we'll work our way through that. Sherry, you're up first on 5A, which is the Rob's report on more public meetings for zoning bylaws. Go ahead, Sherry.
Yes, I just have a question for Rob. Once this is passed, this means that the non-controversial rezonings will come to council at our July meeting?
Yeah, the first meeting available would be the 14th of July.
Yeah, because it mentions the first or second meeting of the month, and in July we only have one, so that's not going to mess things up, right?
Oh, yeah, because we only have one in July. Yeah, we'll have it on the first meeting we'll have for the non-controversial zoning bylaws will be the 14th. Yeah.
Okay, and secondly, we aren't changing the date, the number of days for notice?
No, I think in this context, 20 days would be sufficient. We did that for minor variances because, the required notice is only 10 days. So the thought was if we gave 15, that would just give people some additional time. But I think 20 days is pretty sufficient to digest, a non-controversial application that we're talking about in this particular context. The first ones we'll see will be, tied to consent applications that the people receiving our notice would have received notice from the county about the severance and would have had an opportunity to understand what was going on some time ago.
Okay, and then I have a third one, through you, Mr. Chair. Once this has been approved by council, we aren't taking any new rezoning applications. Will this allow that to start happening again?
Yeah, so we are certainly, we had received some before the pandemic. If there are applications that are being proposed that are beyond the scope of what we're proposing here, we would certainly consider them in terms of reviewing them for completeness and advising them as to whether or not there are outstanding items, that sort of thing. I think the vision is what the thought was, and is we wanted to kind of exercise the notion of virtual meetings with the minor variances, which are typically non-controversial. On the 14th of July, we'll exercise that process again with variances and non-controversial zoning bylaw amendments, and perhaps in the fullness of time, we'll get to a point where we'll be comfortable, or better than that, we'll maybe be in a position to have public meetings with live people in an audience, right? Before too late. I guess, but to answer your question, we're certainly working behind the scenes with anybody that's got a development proposal that would require a zoning bylaw amendment. We are working with them through the process to the degree that we can, right?
Okay, because I had read somewhere that we weren't taking rezoning applications, so maybe that's been changed since I last saw it.
No, I thought we clarified the language, but I'll look at what we have, say, in our website to make sure that it's
Right, thank you.
clear.
Thank you, Sherry. And Rob, just on the same point, could you let council know if you get into a situation where you're ready to come to council with a additional zoning application, but you're reluctant to do so because of the complexity? If I understand right now, these are the only two that we have pending, and that's great. I'm glad we're able to process those. But I'd like to know as a council, if you face a new or an additional application that's complex and you don't think you're able to do it, if you can let us know that.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I had said 6.5. I can't read my own writing. It's actually 6.1, and it's directed at Lane. And so, Lane, the change in the federal gas tax acceleration, is that going to make any? Is that going to make very much, if any, difference to us as a township?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's just with respect to cash flow. So rather than having two installments, we'll get it all in one lump by the end of June. That's what's anticipated.
Okay, so it just helps us a bit with cash flow. It doesn't get us any more money, right?
At this point in time, that's correct.
We're on to 6.7. I believe that's you, Donna.
I actually had 6, 7, and 8 in the correspondence.
Oh, okay. Not so 6-6. Okay, so why don't start with 6.6.
Actually, all 3 of these relate to motions that different municipalities sent through looking for support. And I just wanted to confirm that if we supported their letters, would that cost us any money? I can't recall if supporting does.
So, Lane?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I see the correspondence that's there, they're just seeking support of the different motions and the stance that they're taking in those different instances. So it's one of those things where we take a look, and if council is supportive of it, then they can address it, and if not, as recommended, they just proceed for information.
Okay, so number 6 is the city of Brantford wanting to declare Essential Workers Day on March the 17th. We do this for many different people. So, and I think it's pretty appropriate this year that we show support for our essential workers. So that was number 6. That was just a request for supporting that. Number 7 from the city of Cambridge. I know we've done a lot of work on this, but asking provincial funding for rehabilitation facilities for drug addiction. And maybe I would ask the deputy mayor if she feels that we've done enough on this already.
Sorry?
I just pulled it up, so give me a chance here. To let you know, although we aren't meeting right now, the committee is still working to find a location to have a safe drug injection in Peterborough. So it's still ongoing, and I believe the MPP is working with Peterborough Health to come up with that location. So it's in the works. It just, we can't make announcements yet because we haven't been successful so far. Still working on it.
It seems to me though that this is a next level up. It's talking about a rehabilitation facility, which I know would be costly, but I don't think it's a safe injection.
No, the safe injection site also was including treatment, which would be rehabilitation. So it would be a package. It wouldn't just be a safe injection site.
So we should be fine on that?
Pardon?
We should be fine on that then without doing further support?
It's up to council. We are still working on it. It's just, you know, nothing that we can make any public announcements at this point in time. Still negotiating.
If it's not going to cost us anything, I think it would be worthwhile drawing attention to the issue again. And then that number 8 is related to the conservation authorities. And I know we've done delegations at AMO. It's the very same issue related to the responsibilities and the duties of conservation authorities. I just wondered if council wanted to put that into the forefront again and draw attention to it. Those are my comments. It's really up to council if we want to support these 3.
Does anybody else have any comments on those? My perspective there, we're just expressing that we like the ideas that are being said in those motions. So
yes,
I'm comfortable with them.
So we would support the 3 of them then?
That would be my view, but that's up to council. Sherry?
The first one was to declare Essential Workers Day on March 17th. It's a bit redundant now.
I think the thought was, I'd have to go back and read it again, was that that's when things kind of went crazy. And then so each year from then on, we would do that. I don't know.
Yeah, so we would recognize March 17th going forward as Essential Workers Day, right? Which is probably a good idea.
Yeah, because that particular council meeting was held May 26th, which was
2
months after the fact, right? So
they're looking to 2021.
Yeah.
Jerry, you had a comment, and then Jerry has a comment. Jerry, sorry.
So are they going to change St. Patrick's Day to Essential Workers? I don't know how this works.
Probably.
I don't know why they put that particular date.
I'm just saying, so which day do I take off? The 17th or the 18th?
Okay. Okay. We also had 14. Anita. You're still muted.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring council's attention to the fact of the SETI program graduation. If you click on the link, there's quite a lengthy article about our graduation at Lang Pioneer Village, and there's some really nice pictures, and I just think it's worth rereading and being reminded of what a great program it is and how we all work together.
Thank you. I think that's all everybody wanted pulled, I believe. So we'll do it in one motion to approve 5, 6, 7, and 8. Moved by Sherry, seconded by Jerry. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, we are going to then move, there are no petitions. We will move on to council portfolio updates, and we'll start with Donna.
Thank you. Through you, at our Police Services Board meeting, I'm not sure if it was a week or two ago, it was confirmed that the Black Cat has been ordered for our municipality. And we're encouraging areas that are concerned about speeding to, we actually have 2 road watch signs left, and we're encouraging them to employ the road watch strategies so that we can have data to determine areas where we would put the Black Cat up. And we did send a request through to Public Works that they install 1 of the remaining road watch signs in Youngstown. I think that's everything. Oh, and also for you, Jerry, I did question again the foot patrol number, 149 hours. I think it seemed to be the same as the last one. And this time the answer was directed more towards the time spent at the Ennismore Community Center, not necessarily in Bridge North. So I never forget you.
Thank you, Donna. Sherry?
Thank you to you. We're having a business and planning committee meeting on Thursday, and the reports coming from the consultants that we had engaged, where the committee will talk about it. And it will be followed by a virtual open house with a presentation of findings. And it's going to be, the information is going to be posted with comment requested for 1 week from June the 15th to the 22nd. And there will be a notice to council, committee, stakeholders, and the general public. And there will be a comment sheet for people to submit. The final draft report with the background and recommendations will be given to staff on June the 30th, and a presentation to council on July the 14th. So there's quite a bit that's going to be going on with regards to that. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Then we'll go to Public Works and Recreation. Jerry?
Thank you. So we're finally getting back to a little bit of normalcy. We had our first trail meeting yesterday that unfortunately I couldn't attend, but Tanya assured me that both her and Mike did outstanding at it. And so it's nice to see a little bit of normalcy coming back. The marina is going to be opening this weekend for seasonal boaters. So again, as things progress, we'll be able to open up more stuff. As far as the public works go, the men are getting the roads ready to go for chipping. So get ready for the dusty season to start and the phone to start ringing, asking why they ripped up a perfectly good asphalt road and replaced it with this crap. So that's coming. That's it.
Thanks, Jerry. Anita on Sustainability, Culture, and Senior Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to thank council and staff once again for all your words of condolence and sympathy with the passing of my mom last week. Obviously, with the COVID-19, we won't be able to have a standard funeral. We will be having a small graveside service next week with limited numbers. So again, I want to thank you all for your kindness and your support. And all right, so obviously my committees that I'm on, the Accessibility Advisory Committee and the Heritage Committee, we have not been meeting since the pandemic was announced, and I'm not sure when our committees will be resuming, but I'm going to assume probably September because we are in June now. I also want to say congratulations and a big shout out to Heather Brook, who's the winner of the Cheerful Challenge, and runners up Michelle Anderson, Myrna Peel, and Megan Samantha. And also the Sustainable Story Contest winner, Blossom Hill Nursery, Joe and Hazel Cook. They did receive a Peterborough County Award a few years back. So congratulations to all those winners. And I'm really looking forward to staff sort of giving us an update exactly what was a Cheerful Challenge and what was a Sustainable Story. So that's it.
Thank you, Anita. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to report on my portfolio of intergovernmental relations. I'm first going to turn to items relating to the county and Peterborough Public Health. So as you're probably aware, Peterborough Public Health, in conjunction with our paramedic service, are now doing testing, roadside testing. They started it in the city of Peterborough, and that has now rolled out into the county of Peterborough. Yesterday, they were in Apsley. There were over 260 individuals who took the opportunity to use it. Tomorrow, the service is in Selwyn. They're setting up at the Lakefield Smith Community Center. And on Thursday, they're in Buckhorn at the Buckhorn Community Center. And they run, that operation goes from 10 to 4:30. And so if you feel like you need to have a test, and there's an opportunity to do that. The process that we're using in our area is a unique one. Our public health unit is achieving very significant results in terms of our testing protocols. And I'd like to extend kudos to not only Peterborough Public Health, but our paramedics, but also all of our townships, including our own, who have been working with them to put on the service that's going to take place tomorrow. Most of you know that I am, and I sound like a broken record, but the importance of having a rural-based health unit, I think, was demonstrated once again. The urban units have not been able to go to stage 2, primarily the less populated, less dense areas like ours have been able to go to stage 2, and so it's something that I think demonstrates again the importance of communities of interest and rural communities being grouped with rural communities as we organize public health. Also this week, or in the last, I guess it was the end of last week, there was a transfer to provinces announced by the federal government of $14 billion. And if you look through the press reports, a portion of that is supposed to be used to support municipalities. So we'll have to see how that plays out over time. But one of the specific reasons that it was enunciated was some of that money was to find its way to municipalities. So hopefully it does. Municipalities, including our own, are facing challenges because of COVID, and it would be good if we could get some assistance from senior levels of government. The biggest news is the change by the government that's coming into effect at 12:01 a.m. on Friday, where our area is going to go to the phase 2 of the recovery. That is going to have a number of significant impacts. Some of those impacts are right across the province. So gatherings which are now limited to no more than 5 will be limited to no more than 10. Church services will be allowed to start up again across the province. The note is that the church, the physical location can only go up to a 30% of its capacity. And childcare is going to be restarted across the province. As colleagues are probably aware, right now it's just for emergency services personnel. So now it will be opened up. There are a number of very strict guidelines on how that will operate, and will likely mean that they're not able to handle the same number of little ones that they were prior to COVID. There are some impacts that are just in our region and those that have been allowed to go to phase 2. So personal care services are now allowed. So that means if somebody needs to get a haircut, those are permissible. One of the big changes is that restaurants will now be allowed to provide in eating services outdoors. In other words, you can, if you're located outdoors on a patio, you can now sit down and have your meal there. That's subject to social distancing rules. Shopping malls, not that that affects us directly, are now allowed to open under certain conditions. Tour and guide services, indoor and outdoor pools, provincial parks that are in our area will be allowed to open. That would include, and they're still working through this at Orca, that would include the ability of Warsaw Caves. Attractions and heritage institutions are allowed to open, and outdoor team sport training is allowed to take place so long as there is social distancing taking place. There's some impacts on our township. Jerry mentioned the marina, which is opening. That's not as a result of this. That's as a result of a previous change. But the transient use of campgrounds is now going to be allowed starting on at 12:01. The community centers can now be opened, but for very limited purposes. So you have both the total of 10 people, but also what you can actually do is limited. And there are more things that can be done in the outdoor space. Playground equipment continues to be closed and not be allowed to be used. So there's a significant number of changes that are taking place. A number of our businesses are going to be reacting to that, and as a township, there are some things that we will need to react to as well. So that's my report. I don't know if anybody had any questions on any of those points. Not seeing any, we will move on to other new and unfinished business. I did want to bring up an item there, colleagues. As you know, we are scheduled for July to do our series of town hall meetings. Given the uncertainty of the situation right now and the limits that are still in place, I was wondering if council would be of a mind to just defer that and take another look at it in September and see if the situation is more amenable to that. I see that Anita's nodding her head. Is the rest of council comfortable that we pass a motion to defer those meetings until the fall, let's say? Donna, you willing to move that or second it? So Anita moves, Donna seconds it. Any other comments? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. And so the other thing that and colleagues, if you disagree with me, just speak right up, because I know you will. With the movement to 10 people, at some point in time, we may have the opportunity to do council in person. I don't know if we want to ask staff to look at if that's feasible, or whether we just want to keep doing what we're doing right now. for a while and just wait for some time. I'm looking for suggestions. Or Anita?
I think staff would be the one to sort of, they know what's happening perhaps a little more than we do. I think when staff feel that it's perhaps safe to meet in person again, especially with all the support staff in place as well, that staff will let us know.
Donna?
Yes, I agree with Anita. I don't think we should rush into it. I'm quite happy with the way the Zoom meetings are working. And when it's safe, then staff can make that determination, in my opinion.
Okay, Jerry?
Personally, I think the sooner the better. Get things back to normal. I mean, you can wander around the Dollarama. You know, there's people, you know, the hardware store, Costco, all kinds of places, you know. So just the sooner the better, in my opinion. I don't want to see this drag on. I don't mind the Zoom meetings. Barefoot's not a bad way to have a meeting, but I think the sooner we get in there, the better.
And Mr. Chair, can
Go ahead.
I was wondering if staff could perhaps put together a report. You talked about the patios that are opening up now. I know in Peterborough they were talking about closing off a portion of Hunter Street to have like sidewalk patio eating areas, and even perhaps part of a road. I know that the main street is county, but I'm just wondering if there's if staff would have any ideas on how we can maybe assist our eaters.
Does somebody want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I can try. So essentially, we are kind of looking at what can be done and what we need to do, I guess, to support that. I think at this point in time, we'd like to hear from restaurateurs or other people about what they think might be beneficial to them, and I think we'd want to hear also from, say, the county, right? If we were looking at making any adjustments to county roads. So, yeah, so we're open for discussion by all means, and whatever we can do to help support that, we would do within reason, of course. And we'd want to have a clear understanding of what would be helpful, and obviously we wouldn't want to be detrimental to the other businesses either, right? So, all things considered, I think there's maybe some opportunity. There's certainly opportunity for them to expand into parking lots and things of that nature. And again, we could support that readily.
So, Rob, if I understand you correctly, if we hear from a restaurateur that wants to consider this, we should be directing them to as you want to hear.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk to them about what they think might help them, right?
Okay. Jerry, did we lose you?
Yes, we've lost Deputy Mary Chair.
Okay. Well, all we have left is So the other thing that comes out of that is to ask staff at the appropriate time to come back with recommendations to council as to when they think it would be appropriate to return to the council chambers. We have bylaws. We have a number of them here. So we have the bylaw authorizing the agreement with Belcon Design Builders Limited. We have the authorizing bylaw agreement for the architect at the Scout building. We have the authorizing bylaw for the HVAC at the municipal building. So those three bylaws are there. Anita, you'd like to move them. Donna, would you like to second them? All those in favor? Those are carried. We have the confirming bylaw by Donna, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Okay, and we have adjournment that Jerry moves, seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Great. We are adjourned. Staff, thank you very much for all your support and all the work you've done on this. And to all of our counselors, thank you very much. And to is that Sherry coming back on? No? No, I guess.
So it's not Sherry. She's just letting me know she's having a hard time connecting, I think.
Okay, well, just let her know we adjourn so that she can stand down from that. Okay, colleagues, have a good evening. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon. Bye.